Okay. Good evening. It's Tuesday. It's 8:30. That means it's Let's Talk Education live here from London. Welcome. Let's see who's in the room. We're going to be talking about a few things this evening. Welcome, Soul Mrs. M. You're the first in the room. Good evening. We're going to be talking about a few things this evening. I'll be honest, I try to spread positivity and love as much as possible, but today's going to be a rant. Today I'm going to be cussing. Today I'm going to be, as one of my favorite musical artists would say, cross, angry and miserable. I am going to be cussing today. Good evening everybody who is in the room. Thank you very much for joining. But before I go on my rant, I'm warning you from now, Normally I try and give like really positive information and parenting tips and so on and so forth. Good evening, Mary. Good evening. Today I'm going to be cussing. Today is a cuss. However, as always, I'm bigging up my sponsors. My sponsors, Little Scholars Playground. Please, for all of your children's informational needs, all of their needs. So we've got posters, we've got books, range from young children, where it's their first kind of flip and read books. I love this one. I always point this one out. Look at that. King. Imagery is very important to children. Please head over, if you don't already, follow Little Scholars Playground on Instagram. And for 15% discount, you have More Education 01. So we've got that out of the way. You can tell I'm brimming to start cussing, but I'm going to hold it down. Holding it down. I'm going to compose myself. Okay. Secondly, I think I said it at the end of last year. We have started a podcast. It's not a More Education podcast. I've got some of my other education professionals. So you've got 3 educational professionals. We said there's over 50 years worth of experience on that podcast. Guys, I'm tired of the same stupid podcasts over and over again, saying the same questions, the same things. I'm tired of them. So we started our own. It's called the SLT podcast, Serious Leaders Talking. If you're in the education business, you know it means senior leadership team. We've put a twist on that. SLT. You have myself, Siggy Moore. You have an amazing Senko and deputy head, and another amazing vice principal. So you have 3 black professionals speaking about issues around education. So if it's not going to be those relationship ones, it's not going to be them silly question ones, you have serious professionals here. So I'm going to be promoting that on my page. I'm going to be asking you to make sure you follow, log in, share, so on and so forth. The same thing you do with this live. Promotions out of the way. Okay, so good evening and thank you for joining. Something happened to me last week, and I was in so much shock. That I spent the weekend pontificating about what was said and what was done. It really makes me think and question. This is how bad it is. It makes me question the work I do. And I want it to be clear. Let me get something straight. And I don't want to sound facetious in any way I'm saying. The majority of the children at More Education. This is what I've devoted like my life to. I've devoted a huge amount of time and effort into educating black children from our community. People have said, oh, why don't you do it this way? Why don't you do it that way? Why don't you charge this? Why don't you target this? So on and so forth. The passion of this comes from, this is what I think about. What did my mum as a single mother need? What did she need? What help would she have needed to help me through my GCSEs? I think about the costs a lot. I do. I really think about the costs. I try not to make it too much. I try to make sure that we pack as much value in as possible. More Education. One of the key things that we do is we employ all black teachers. All of our teachers are black. And there's a reason. It's because I know, firstly, in education, black teachers are extremely underappreciated. So this is a space where they can come and be appreciated. The presents that some of our teachers got last year were amazing. The letters, the notes from parents, we appreciate it. First thing. Secondly, The vast majority of the children who come to More Education are black. That's of African or Caribbean background. Yeah. So the impact of having a black teacher on black children is you can go and do the research yourself. Go and Google it once you finish listening to me. Cool. Yeah. So outside of More Education, I do work in education in a number of different roles and consultancy. Yeah. And one institution in which I work at, I was referred to, get this, as, I'm not even sure if I can say this on Instagram, so I'm going to bleat it out, yeah? I was told that I'm a house Negro. I'm a house Negro. It wasn't Negro, it was the other word, yeah? That is what somebody referred to me as, yeah? It wasn't only myself, it was another senior member of staff, black male, yeah? Black male. The two black males in a senior position were referred to as house Negroes, yeah? And if you're not familiar with the term or what it even means, yeah? Malcolm X did a speech, and this is generally where it's taken from. I think it's called I can't remember the exact name of the speech, yeah? I could Google it, but I like to use my brain. Where he speaks about the difference between the field Negro and a house Negro. And it's an impassioned speech. And it speaks about how the field Negro was the one outside in the field working hard. He was the one who wanted to destroy the plantation system, burn down the plantation, and he would put his plans in action. But the house Negro, who was inside of the house, a good example is if you've ever seen the film Django, Stephen, he plays the best example of a house Negro I've ever seen in my life, yeah? He's the one who will scarper the plans of the field Negroes and go to Master and say, Master, they're trying to kill us, they're trying to burn a house down, and he regards the house as his house and it's my master, and because he's so attached to the master and the system of slavery, he's indoctrinated into that system. That's what he believes is the right thing, yeah? So this person, who I know, firstly, yeah? Let me just show you something, yeah? I remember reading this when I was 18, yeah? By Any Means Necessary, Speeches of Malcolm X, yeah? I remember reading this probably before I was 20, yeah? The frustrating thing is, you've got people from our community. Who, because you're a black person in a position of authority, yeah, or in a senior position, and you may not adhere to or you may not buy into their idea of being quote unquote black, a man's gonna call you all kind of things: coconut, a bounty, a house Negro, all of these things they're gonna throw at you because you simply do not adhere to their concept and idea of what it is to be black. Yeah. And I think it's amazing. This is something that I've seen in the workplace. Not only have I seen it in the workplace, it's something that is prevalent or prevails throughout our culture. If you don't fit into an archetype of what it is to be black, yeah, or you don't buy into certain ideas, yeah, a man's gonna, as a cheek, to turn around and say you're a house Negro. That is what I was called. Now, for somebody, you may brush this off your shoulder. This may be nothing to you, yeah? But for somebody who for over 20 years has dedicated themselves to the work of our community, Pan-Africanist community, and my local community. And my local community is in North London. I'm born, raised, and I've never left Tottenham. So I remember volunteering. Before I did More Education, I remember doing voluntary work at Saturday schools, yeah? Volunteering my time that were for black children. So you see, original Saturday schools, I volunteered my time. That is how I started getting into community work, working for the community. Yeah, I'm not here to prove my credentials. If anybody who knows me, go and check me out. But for the reason why it's very pervasive and it's dangerous for us to say these things, because because that message went through the organization, you know. So you've got black people hearing that, white people hearing that, everybody's hearing this. Yeah, you're a house Negro. That's what I was called. Myself and another black colleague. And I had to sit there and say, rah. So I've got people who I know have never read. Like they've not gone out of their way to inform themselves about their history, their society and their culture. Yeah? You got people who have a cursory understanding or so on and so forth. But I'm talking, me as a man who go and educate myself. You know? I like educate myself. The books and the thing, it's what I've done. It's what has been the standard in my yard. Yeah? Just because I didn't agree or done something that you may have disagreed with, you're going to spurt that out about two black men in senior positions who, I can speak for myself, but the other black man is another man who is also committed to black children. Has committed himself to black children. And these are and I know the other colleagues were like, hold on, because they know my stance, especially the senior white colleagues. They're like, hold on, she's saying that about you, but you're a man who, behind closed doors, like buns are firing, sticks up, and so on and so forth. We know what you do outside of school. Like they've seen articles that I've been part of. They've seen things that I've spun. They've seen it, and they're thinking, oh my God. I'm sitting there thinking, right, what must they think of us if we can say that those things out in public about this type of man, about these type of men? And then I sit back and, because I always hear these, again, I refer to the podcast, although we've started around, I listen to the other podcasts where they're talking about, why can't we stick together, or why can't we move forward, or why can't we so on and so forth, yeah? The reason is because people are allowed to say certain things. People are allowed to say certain things with complete chest, with no possible repercussions. Yeah. And what I don't mean no one's going to go around it physical or there's going to be a fight or anything. Yeah. But in certain communities, if you misstep or misspeak, you're done, you know. If you misstep or you misspeak, you are finished. If you misstep or misspeak about certain people within their community, you're done. You're done. What's the word now? I can't remember. Like, you're cancelled. You're completely cancelled. Yeah? They protect people in their community. There are people in their community who are protected. You can't go around saying certain things. Because if we find out that you've gone around, and I'm not saying I should be one of those people, yeah, I'm not saying protect me, but there are so many people where it's so easy for us to just attack. You can say these phrases, but you got to remember, there's other communities, other people are looking at this. Other people are looking at this and thinking, rah, is that how you people move? Is that what is acceptable? Because let me tell you this, and I may sound arrogant, and I know I come across as arrogant to some people. I apologize. Maybe my neurodiversity, yeah? Seldom can you sit in a room with me. I generally will sit with other professionals, yeah? And certain subjects are brought on, and I'm lacking. I generally don't lack. I think I spoke about this previously. I can never be in a position with other professionals where I don't know what's going on. I'm not aware of what's going on. I can't contribute to the conversation, or I don't have some kind of historical understanding of what's going on. Because I was taught you cannot be in a room with others. And when I say others, people from other cultures, and not have an understanding or a grasp of what's going on, the conversation. You must have a grasp of their culture, their concept, and their points of view. And a solid one of your own. That's how I was brought up, and that's what I was taught. I literally was teaching the other day about newspapers, and my uncle was here, I remember him reading newspapers day in, day out, and I said, what newspapers do you read? And he says, I kind of read The Observer, 2-3 times a week, but he always reads the Sun. And I said, what, the Sun? I said, why do you read the Sun? He says, Brethren, I must always know what my enemy is plotting. Yeah, those were his words. That's what I was brought up to believe. So the people in those rooms know what I'm capable of. They know what I'm about. Yeah, they know it's going to be tricky to get me out. They know that, which is why if you're going to get me out, bet you come and just smash my head in. Yeah, I am not an easy person to get out. However, if they know that and they consider you as part of, and they're looking at you and you're going to go around and say those things. And I'm saying this to you about what are the ramifications of those words because I'm upset. I'm just going to randomly say things, and it's almost standard in our community. We can just say things and do things. So people have just joined. I'm speaking about somebody who this week in a professional capacity referred to me as a house Negro. Somebody who sucks up and kisses the behind of white people for self-service. Myself and another black male colleague. Fair enough you say that about me. Do you understand the ramifications of what you're saying? Why do we say these things so willy-nilly? It's the same reason. Why do we have so much of our business out there on the internet? For people to just see. Just for them to see, and we why do people pass judgment and so on and so forth? Because we put it out there. Listen, if she could, don't get me wrong, she could find me, you know. She could find me. She probably had, the person had several opportunities to tell me to my face. Outside of telling me to my face, I'm not a difficult person to find. Yeah, you could have Googled me, gone on to More Education and sent me a stinking message. Yeah, stinking message. See how you were fine. Fine. I'm somebody who, I'm not that difficult to find. But to say it openly where other people are able to hear your parents, when I'm talking about my parents and grandparents, like, it's a certain business you keep in your yard. You don't say certain things. And we have a terrible habit of when things get to us, we'll say things like, we'll get emotionally bowled up. Yeah? And it was the craziest thing. It was a crazy, and this is why education, I encourage education. I speak to the children at More Education about continually speaking from a position of authority and an educated position. If you're not speaking from that position, we're going to have a massive bloody problem. A massive problem. 1, 2. I'll continue and I'll always continue to. Thank you very much for the love. I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm okay, but I appreciate it. Yeah. We cannot allow. Yeah, this social media thing, and I know it's difficult, pretty hypocritical, me saying it, coming on every blasted week talking the thing. Yeah. We allow anybody in our community. We allow anybody to be an authority, and it's something that always confused me. To be an authority, or not only can they be an authority, but anybody can tear them down. Yeah, and a community I've spoken on previously. I speak a lot about this community because they live adjacent to where I am. Is the Jewish community. Yeah, I'm an avid listener of LBC. Yeah, LBC 97.3. I'm so old, I remember when it was 1152 medium wave. I'm telling you my age, yeah? That's how long I've been listening to LBC, yeah? And LBC's main morning presenter is a guy called Nick Ferrari. I don't know if you've ever listened to him, yeah? I think Nick Ferrari is absolutely amazing. I study Nick Ferrari. I listen to him. I've seen him tear people to shreds, yeah? I love Nick Ferrari, yeah? I'm not saying I love his political view and this, that, and the other, but somebody to study, amazing. And I've studied this, when he's speaking about issues, specifically in regards to someone said, I remember that too, the Jewish community, he will get somebody from an authority or an organization. So it may be the editor of the Jewish Times, it may be the chief rabbi of, it may be the chief rabbi of a specific area, somebody of authority to comment on specific issues relating to that community. He doesn't get any and everybody, yeah? He gets an authority. However, when it comes to issues specifically relating to our community, anybody can call up and say, yeah, I'm this from this, blah, blah, blah. We don't know you from nowhere. What are your credentials? Yeah? And he tears them to pieces. He knows full well. Nick knows full well, say, yeah, no, nobody. Yeah? But you are so arrogant and we're so thirsty to be wanted and acknowledged. We'll go on and speak on issues that we don't know anything about. And we boost that in our community. We boost that, but we also allow other people to be torn down. Because the main thing that I noticed about this thing, yeah, when I said, oh, yes, me's a house nigga, and sorry, I said the word, a house Negro and so on and so forth. And I said, all right, I'm going to see how everybody else are moving on. One or two people, that kind of, it was funny. It was, but was it dealt with condemnation? No. Was it dealt with, what was the general thoughts and feelings of that word being used or the idea being even put out there? And this is the craziness in which we live in. And if you really want to know, our kids see this stuff. Our kids see how we behave and how we behave towards each other and how we behave towards each other, how we operate as a community. Our kids see this stuff. So when people really want to turn around and speak to me about the state of our kids and what can we do and so on and so forth, just look at ourselves. Just look at what we're doing. Just look at the things that we find acceptable. Look at the things that we're willing to allow to happen. Back to the point, we're willing to allow any and everybody to talk on our behalf and we're not bonitoed. We're more than willing to let certain things continue to be spoken about and we don't do anything about it. Even in a microcosm of the workplace, there's certain conversations that are had, yeah? Certain conversations that are had that you let slip, that you let slide, certain words you let slide. If it's somebody from another group, yeah, we're ready to call them out. But if it's somebody from our group, like certain things where I gotta let slide, we're not gonna. We have to put certain things in a hard check. Hard check. As an example to everybody around us, to our children, and for the stability of our community. Because you see, which we don't do, yeah? And I as I said, I see other communities do it. You come out and say the wrong thing, you're done for. In the workplace, if you say the wrong thing, you are done for. It's not even like there's a way to repair it or there's a way to, boy, I need some training. Nah, man, I ain't interested in training you. You're done. You say anything about race, diversity, sexuality, you say the wrong thing, you're done. But we still live in a world where we'll say anything about somebody relating to our group and we're happy to fragrantly say it. Madness. It's madness. If somebody can say with chest, it doesn't matter if they're uneducated or not, and I would argue this person is uneducated, yeah? If you can find the ability, yeah, and the confidence, because it's the confidence, the confidence, because you're not confident to say things about other groups. You would never say that because you know there are repercussions. But if you're confident to spread that rumor about, again, I don't want to trump like two black men who have devoted their lives to education, yeah, simply because they're in a senior, there is no other reason, because they're in a senior position. I'm not gonna say, yeah, you may disagree with my stance. You may not like certain things that I do. That's fine. There's certain things you do I'm not gonna like. But we're gonna automatically go to the slander of, yeah, well, he's a coconut, or he's a this, he's a that. Yo, listen. But I'm not even going to be on here too long today because, as I said, this is an observation I'm sharing. This is an experience. I would have expected to have been called many, many other things, and and I understand why I may be called some of those things. I genuinely get it. You're probably not the first person who has observed my personality and my behavior and said, Ziggy Moore is a this. Ziggy Moore is a that. You will not be the first. I get it. I am not everybody's cup of tea. Yeah? Done. It's a one thing, man. I can't take it. Like I can't even get my head around it. It's for somebody to come and call me a house Negro? You're gonna call me one? Can you reset and refresh the top? Can you reset and refresh the topic? I was going to wrap up, but just because it's the reluctant accountant, I'm going to do it. I'm going to refresh and reset for the people who are in the room. Yeah? Before I wrap up. This week at work, because I don't fit into an idea of blackness, yeah, which is, I was called a house Negro. Yeah, forget everything I've devoted my life to and what I do. I was called a house Negro. And the painful thing about it is, one, it comes from somebody who probably doesn't even know the background and history of where it comes from, probably never even read any of Malcolm X's works or books. One. Two, the ease and comfort in which that person could say it. The ease and comfort, because they're not going to use those terms for other groups of people. That just shows how weak we are. And the fact that they can do it in an open setting amongst other groups of people. I know some people say, I don't see race and so on and so forth. And listen, I'm very accepting. I work with a range of people from lots of different backgrounds. I'm English, mate. You with me? I'm Jamaican, right? I'm Jamaican, but I like fish and chips. I like Blackadder, yeah? As I said, so I'm also British. I was born here. But the ease in which we can say these things, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It is dangerous. And I'm going to wrap up on the reason why it's more dangerous. It's because I was speaking to a young man today who is a lovely young man. I said this to him and I can see how uncomfortable he is, but that's the only word I could use to describe him. Yeah. Whenever I'm at that site, I'm in my office and he sees me through the glass. He always knocks on the door and he'll say, "Good morning, sir. How are you?" So on and so forth. Yeah. Without fail, it is reflective of the home that he comes from. They have a term, like the young people, they have a term called he's a good youth. Yeah, like he's a good youth. He's a good youth. Yeah? That isn't a term of endearment. What they're saying is like almost he's to be dismissed. He's to be dismissed. He's not a threat. He's not like, because the archetype of young black men is you have to be a bad man. If you're not a bad man, you're an idiot. There is nothing else. There is limited scope. So when we speak about like the mental health of our of children, specifically black boys and so on and so forth, like if you don't have the latest, you don't know the latest, my brother, what was the reason for calling you a house Negro? I'll quickly get into that, yeah? Very quickly. She told a lie on a colleague of mine, yeah? Barefaced lie, yeah? Barefaced lie. Bareface was somebody who I line managed, and I was supposed to reprimand that person. On an investigation, it became clear that she told a lie. And all I did is I said, upon investigation, I know the head told me to go and check this is a lie. It's a barefaced lie. And I've informed that colleague that if they wanted to take a grievance out, they could. That was the email. Let me get this straight. It was another black colleague. Who you're going to tell barefaced lies on. But I don't want to get into that nitty gritty. I don't want to. My point is, how are you going to say them? Even if you believe it. Listen, I've worked with certain people who I've got off as a direct. I would never say that. in front of everybody. Never. Because my parents taught me better. But the point I wanted to make is, if you don't fit into an idea of blackness, this is how people are going to refer to you. If you're the black boy and you don't have that coat and you don't talk that talk and you don't walk that walk. I've had people say this about my son. Yeah. I remember he came home. He probably doesn't want me to say this. He came home one day and he was really upset. And the young lady had said, "Oh, why do you talk white? Talk white? What does that even mean?" It's very, very difficult. And these are concepts that we perpetuate in our community, in certain areas, not all and everybody. Sorry if it was a sweeping statement. But it becomes very, very, very difficult for our children and for us to really move forward in a certain way if we're going to perpetuate these conversations. Really perpetuate these conversations. And for a lot of our children who want to feel free to where blackness is a spectrum, yeah? But they've got to operate in very confined spaces, and it's very damaging. And I'm sure I'll probably have many people in the chat who can speak. I agree, it should never go in front of other groups. Ever. Anyway, that's my rant over of this week of being called a house Negro. Yes. Yo, that is wild. She wouldn't say it to my face. She wouldn't say it to my face. They wouldn't say it to your face. But my point is, yo, fair enough you think that about me. Don't make that be known to everybody where certain people can come and say, "Oh, such and such called you a da-da-da-da-da." Be yourself. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining. Just be conscious in the workplace. That's all I'm going to say. Just please be conscious in the workplace. Understand that whether you understand it or not, it is a political workspace. It's a political space in which you must be thinking of your political hat on. And if you're not, and you get your head lick off, at least you know why, because you weren't thinking in that way. Remember, we're starting our podcast, the SLT podcast. The page should be going up by the end of the week. Thank you very much. The page is going up by the end of the week. It's a brilliant podcast that we've started. Myself, 3 other educational professionals, 50 years of experience in that room. We've done the first 2. We're going to get the reels and the clips out. Please follow. Also, we're going to be building... what else do we have? Sorry, I didn't speak about our free ebook. If you haven't and you're a parent of a child in secondary school, make sure you have downloaded this ebook completely free. More Education to Essential Guide to Understanding Secondary School. Make sure you join our WhatsApp group. We're building communities. We're going to be doing so much for parents this year. Have a lovely evening, and I will see you next week. Thank you.